you know, and I shared it with you guys the other day about the power of your mind. But one of the quotes I love about the mind is, the mind is a beautiful slave, but a horrible master. Okay. The things that control your mind, the things that you think and or believe, have so much influence over everything that you do. I don't think people really understand that idea of guard your thoughts. Okay? Guard your thoughts. Because when you actually guard your thoughts, it flows from everything. Your thoughts lead to your words lead to your actions lead to your character leads to your destiny. Everything starts with what's going on inside your mind. Okay? We've been talking about racism, for the last couple of days. And I'll be honest with you guys, when you get to a certain level of thought, you understand that you actually feel sorry for the racist person. You feel sorry for the racist mind, especially when you understand history. Because when you understand history, you understand that one being a racist is something that was done to them, something that was taught to them, something that was intentionally given to them. And there's a quote that I read that simply says, at the bottom, and here's the quote, at the bottom of it all, if you can convince the lowest white man that he is better than the highest black man, you can pick his pocket. Hell, if you can convince or give him anyone to look down on, he'll empty his pockets for you. That is an actual quote from then a sitting U.S. President, Lyndon B. Johnson. So when we see these things happening in our society, we understand that these things are not accident. These things are not isolated. This stuff was indoctrination, but it was indoctrination not for their good, not for their benefit, not for their pride, but for their confusion, for their disorientation, to occupy their minds, take their minds off of the fact that they were in the same boats that we were. They're being abused and robbed just like us. But they're just made to think that they're slightly different so they can take their minds off of the person who's abusing them and have solace that at least they're better than you. Even though everybody knows they're not, even though everybody knows they're in the exact same position. But once again, their thoughts are not their own. Okay? So when you see someone who is in that position, when I see them, right, I look at them with a certain level of pity to the fact that you've actually bought that. And, it goes across it wasn't just Lyndon B. Johnson once again. This is a systemic thing. And this is something that has been taught across the world because it works. It works. It works. And it has worked for hundreds of years. But it only works if you don't control your mind. Okay? When you understand that having that thought is tantamount to being, mildly slow, that you cannot see the obvious, that there is no difference in you based on color. When you cannot see the obvious that you're exactly the same, because if you got hurt, you would take a blood transfusion from that person. When you cannot see the obvious that some of these people that you claim are so much less than you are doctors, lawyers, scholars at the top of their game and, competing against everybody. When you cannot see that because you have been so brainwashed that is evidence of someone who is not in control of their mind. So now you, as the person who is the person who's receiving racism, don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating that you accept it, okay? But when you understand it a little bit better, right? Like I said, I feel sorry for them, and that's not to say that if somebody came at me the wrong way, that I wouldn't knock their teeth out. But I would knock their teeth out while I felt sorry for them, that you actually believe that you were dumb enough to say that to me to cause me to knock your teeth out. I wouldn't really take exception to it, okay? I wouldn't really, I don't take exception to it. I chuckle sometimes. Because, but when you look at the brainwashing that occurs all across our world, but I'll give you another example of another U.S. president that said something that is, and if you look at it, you can see the evidence of it all around you. Here's the quote. If you can't convince them, confuse them. This is a quote from Harry S. Truman. This makes you understand a lot about what you see. A lot of the laws, look at the tax code. The tax code is so confusing, right? You don't understand it. Look at how Social Security is processed. It is confusing. You need a degree just to understand it. But you see, they don't want you to understand it. They want you to be confused about it because they want you to believe what they say. And then they set themselves up as this arbiter of truth in all things that are right. And you go along with it. It doesn't matter that you've caught them lying time and time again. People don't understand about, once again, subliminal messaging. Subliminal messaging only works when one has control over your mind. When you see something as representing something, anything that comes with that thing on it, you trust. That's what advertising is all about. That's why big companies pay for advertising, because they control your mind with that. Okay? That's why Coca Cola can still sell Coca Cola today. Everybody knows it's toxic, but you actually have been programmed to believe in that symbol, to trust that symbol. You have. And so people keep drinking it, even though they know it's bad, but they cannot reconcile in their mind, how bad it is. Someone says, or baffle them with bullshit. Exactly, but that's the thing. The statement that goes behind, if you can't convince them, confuse them. The next statement is, it's complicated. Imagine if somebody asked you to pay for something, right? And they say it costs $1,000, and say, what am I paying $1,000 for? And they say, it's complicated. Well, just give it to me. You would say, no. But because we trust or fear those words, IRS, things like that, we give them our money. And they tell us what we're doing. It is complicated, but it's for your own good. And we're like, oh, okay. They only can do that because they control what you think. Go back to what we were talking about a couple of days ago. They control what you think. So they already know what you're going to do. You're going to say, oh, okay. We're actually understanding something, and I think a lot of people are missing the message of what they're understanding and seeing right before their eyes. We're seeing that people somewhat are getting a whiff of what their power is. Your power is numbers. Your power is that you don't have to say, oh, okay. Your power is that you can put enough pressure on the system where the system has to bow to you and not you to it. The system only works because you agree with it. That's it. So once again, we go back to the fact that the mind is a great, great slave, but a horrible master. And we go back to our conversation 2 days ago. Well, who controls your mind? Who is it that's controlling what you think? Because if it's not you, if it's not logic, if it's some just story that somebody has given you that you have not bothered to ferret out on your own, that you have not bothered to kick the tires and check behind, then whose fault is it when you find yourself in a trap that's built by your own mind? When you find yourself limited in the things that you do and or think, the things that you say, because you have not bothered to go outside and verify the things that you've been told, the things that you believe. Who told you that? Where's the proof of that? Isn't there so much proof to the contrary looking you right in the eye, but you're just refusing to accept it? And if you're refusing to accept it, then whose fault is that? Is that not your fault? Okay? And we talk about this when we talk about limitations. We talk about this when we talk about everything. That a lot of things that we encounter, right? And someone says fact check. It's not even sometimes a fact check. This is just a once over. Have you even just looked? Does that make any sense to you? You know? And mind you, there are dumb assumptions on both sides of the spectrum. Generalizations that don't even make any sense. It doesn't. For every generalization somebody can give you, right, I can point you out to 5 things, rattle off the top of my head, that are clear contradictions to any generalization. But generalizations are given to lazy people who are not willing to think, who are willing to allow someone who has thought of a catchy phrase or something, to control you. Look at the money people spend unnecessarily on things to impress people. Things that are totally worthless. Even though evidence is right there that these things are not worth anything. It's right there in the history books. It's right there if you fact check it. One of my favorite ones is diamonds is a girl's best friend. I mean, let's just think about something just that simple, and then you'll understand the power of marketing, suggestion, control. Diamonds are a girl's best friend. For people who are Christians or any kind of, religion, whether it's Christian, Muslim or whatever, when you read books like the Bible, when they talked about precious stones in the Bible, when we talked about precious stones years and years ago, diamonds were never mentioned. A diamond is not a precious stone. It's not. It never has been. But what happens is you get a company like Beers, and they go down there and they find, some diamonds, and what they do is they make an ad campaign, and they now have convinced you that they are. So they take a pretty much worthless stone, convince you that it is, and then all of a sudden you are losing your mind trying to get this worthless stone. Now, what I urge somebody to do is take a diamond and take it to your pawn shop or take it to your jewelry store and try to sell it back to them and see how much they give you for it. You will be shocked. It's a hoax. But it's a hoax that everybody's buying all over the world. Why? Because they had some great actresses and actors that have played into it. So all the time they have these movies, that they glorify diamonds. So you really think you're getting something. And so people will kill themselves, for it. Diamonds are not valuable. They're not a precious stone. They never have been. The only thing is that you believe that they are. And that's all that matters. So you keep buying it. And they keep making movies and giving the people you admire these diamond-studded things, so you look up and you say, I want some diamonds. They're not worth anything. They never have been. Okay? But once again, if you don't control your mind, if you don't control the things that you believe, if you believe everything that you have been told, right? And you don't bother to check it out, whose fault is that? Are you the slave or the master? Once again, I told people about slavery. Slavery is about your mind. It's about controlling your mind. Slavery is not about controlling your body. Once again, the person who is in chains is not a slave. The person who's in chains is a captive. You don't need to chain a slave. So you have a lot of slaves running around doing what they're told. Following a script. How do you follow a script? Simple. I tell you, you believe it. Once you believe it, I set you free because I know now you are my slave. Much like a pet cat. It's always going to come back home. Why? Because you taught it to. And as long as it can be fed there, it will continue to come back. And that makes it your cat. Okay? We have to start thinking. We have to actually take control of our minds. And you have to understand that people have gone to great lengths to sell you these stories. Whatever story it is that you believe, whatever story that you believe, people have gone to great lengths to sell you these stories. Wars have been waged to sell you these stories, to beat things into people. So then they now parrot it as something that they've actually experienced. And the crazy thing is, the more you believe something, the more real it becomes. When you saturate your mind with something, when you wake up and you hear it and it boom, 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 after a while you lose sight of what is real. And all that matters is what's been told to you, what's been in your mind, what's been circulating, what you've heard. You start to dream about it. You start to sing about it, And your programming becomes your reality. You see everything through that lens. And you will die for it. Watch your thoughts. But most especially, who is it that controls your thoughts? Is it you? Did you come up with that? Because that's the only way you and I will be able to get over our proverbial humps in life. When we can actually take control of our own thoughts. But it's very difficult to wipe the slate clean, because after a while you have what they call a confirmation bias. You start confirming things that you're already leaning towards, And everything comes down to the original thought of every single man. If every man, every woman has the capacity to have an original thought, backed by fact, backed by their experience. If you are evolved enough to sit down by yourself and go down a list of things that you believe, and ask yourself, how is it that I believe that? Give me some proof. What is the proof of this? What makes me right and someone who says something contrary wrong? Is that proof or perception? Because perception is not proof. Let's get that straight. Julia says our biggest battle is fought in our head. Your only battle is fought in your head. Because once you win the battle in your head, you realize it's not necessary to battle anyone else. Great is the man who can conquer himself. Because once you have conquered yourself, you have conquered everything. Because everything flows through your mind. Like I tell you, nothing is inherently good or bad. It's how you decide to process it. Okay? Is it easy? No. But I think that we need to learn how to not be prisoners of our own mind. Because your mind is dangerous. You know, we wonder how we can see, we see extremes of mind control and we like, oh, those people are crazy. We see extremes of mind control. We see indoctrination, and we look at it and we say, how is that even possible that you would even believe that? How is it possible that you can have a world full of children that believe in Santa Claus? Really? Did you think about it, kid? You don't have a chimney. But guess what? As a parent, you told them it happened. You told them it exists. The only way they were able to break that is through experience and enough people telling them. And one day they actually looked at it and they did the math and they like, that's not right. How that's not even possible. We do that with some of the things we're told, but then some of the other things we just leave alone and act like it's real, as if we ever got any proof of it. And some of the lies we've been told, we keep those lies, we keep those things because those lies give us comfort. They make us feel better. Like the whole idea that somebody's going to come and change something for you. Someone is going to come and save you, even though no one ever has. But it makes you feel good to really believe that someone's going to do that for you. It keeps you warm when you're suffering. It does. It keeps you warm when you're suffering. It makes you believe that sooner rather than later, your suffering will be over and it'll all be all right. And so we pass those types of thinking on to our children. Now, I saw this thing with Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was talking about how when his grandfather was a young man, someone told his grandfather that things will be better for your child. And his father was told that things would be better for your child. And he was told that things will be better for your child. Because sooner rather than later, somebody's going to ride down on a white horse and save all of you. Don't worry. Just hang on. Like I said, hope is hope is the quintessential human flaw. Okay? But your hope is controlled by your mind. And your mind, if it's not controlled by you, will have you having hope and believing in things that are absolutely crazy. Crazy talk. What do you mean an overweight guy in a red suit came down the chimney and brought you gifts? Does that make any sense? But you see little kids, you see that glow in their eyes when they believe that. They're looking forward to it. Because they've been sold that. You sold it to them. Yeah. But be careful what else you're selling to your kids. But while you're looking at that, be careful with what you've been sold and what you keep selling yourself. The lack of belief in yourself. your reliance on certain things. Okay? Have control over your mind, but like I said, once again, let's realize that the things that we see, right, they're not by accident. Programming is not an accident. I told you guys to, look up the making of a slave. If you actually can read that book without cringing, and if you can read it objectively, and if you can read the purpose for which a lot of these things were done, and you can take a step back outside of yourself, you see it in our society today. You see that a lot of that programming worked. But it only will continue to work as long as the masses of people are under the impression that they are the ones who are making this decision. When you start to understand that your thoughts are not yours, those thoughts stop having power over you. Okay? They stop having power over you. In the moment they stop having power, then guess what? Your original thought, your actual thoughts backed by facts start to take hold. And then you become truly free. You become a free thinker. You become a free feeler, a free lover, then a free actor. Your actions are yours. Okay? But we cannot hope for that as long as we allow ourselves to remain prisoner. So take this talk and apply it to everything in your life. Everything that you believe so adamantly. Who benefits from what you believe in? Who truly benefits? Have you? Have you really benefited? Who benefits from your actions or your lack thereof? Watch your thoughts. But most especially, watch who's putting those thoughts in your head. How do we break the habit? Oh, I shouldn't say that's easy, because that would not be right. That would not be even true. It's not easy to break those habits, but it's one of those things that once you break one habit, once you can actually look at one thing that you believe and say, okay, that just wasn't right. All right. And then you start to ask yourself, where is all this stuff coming from? Where is it coming from? And then you start to ask, okay, who benefits from me believing this, from me staying in this frame of mind? Who benefits? And then you start to look at the other things that you do that don't benefit you, that benefit someone else, that has kept you in a certain point. And then you start to go down the line of the things you believe. And you'll find how free you'll become. Is it easy? No. I always tell people, enlightenment will actually piss you off. The more enlightened you get, that's another thing you have to be very mindful of. As you get enlightened, as you become conscious, you actually can be very, very ornery, because you will be so mad. But once you get to the next level of enlightenment, it'll make you chuckle. You'll laugh at yourself. It's easy to laugh at yourself. I think that's the best thing. When you can laugh at yourself that you actually believed in Santa Claus. But as that list grows, there will be a point, like I said, where you'll be a little upset at yourself. But then you keep going, and you keep going, and you keep going. And then it'll be intriguing, all the different things that you were just lied to about, that you believe, the things that you gave your money up for, the things that you spent your life trying to amass. And once you get that perspective, you'll be like, wow. But then you'll